Chile as a Lab: Service, Leadership, Engineering, and Entrepreneurship. That is the name of the 2-week study abroad course that I and about 20 other Clark Scholars participated in this winter. But to me, it felt more like the greatest all-expenses-paid-for summer vacation ever, and you're about to see why. I hope you enjoy the vlog!
Can I get a plate, please? Sorry? Can I get the drinks?
They didn't make an announcement about doing a drill,
Regréselos a su posición original.
After enjoying some snacks with our orientation, we took in what Chile had to offer for the first time by walking to a famous vegetarian restaurant nearby. The colorful burritos and fruit-filled dessert were both delicious, but it was soon time for the walking tour of the city.
The president is in Chile. When the president is in Chile, the flag with the purple arms is there. Of Santiago asked to modify the orientation of the statue because he considered a lack of respect.
For dinner, we stopped at a restaurant called Quitral, where they serve the freshest and cheesiest empanadas, along with some juicy steak. The next day started the routine of taking the metro to the Universidad Católica. Today begins a STEM boot camp for elementary and middle school teachers to learn how they might incorporate various hands-on engineering skills with their math and science classes. We were split into groups of 2 to 3 students per class, where ours focused on basic block programming. There would also be a daily coffee break, where delicious sandwiches and pastries would be served for all to enjoy. The afternoon class had to do with computational thinking, so we had done an activity with these colorful balls I forgot to film. After some lunch at the cafeteria, we visited the simulation center at the university, where aspiring healthcare providers practice real-life scenarios with model patients. Some rooms are themed to look like home areas of a person in need of care, but our hosts invited a few of us to try out the role of a simulation student.
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está la
Bien, estamos bien. ¿Cómo estás?
No, she's asking about her sister. She's really worried about her sister because of the accent.
Touring the simulation center was enlightening, but the Center of Veterinary Medicine was just as interesting. Then, we headed back to the hotel, where Dr. Miranda gave a lecture on anthro design. Dr. Russell went over the itinerary and also ordered pizza for us to enjoy. A bit later, it was still bright out, so a few friends and I went to check out a gelato shop. Well, first we accidentally walked into the pastry shop across the street, but eventually the delicious gelato was acquired.
Wow, good morning.
Woke up early to have a fancy complimentary breakfast at the hotel.
Going to class.
Today's class moved on to basics with Arduino. We struggled a bit with the afternoon activity being completely in Spanish.
Momento, como ustedes decían, que nos queda una. Esto se puede seguir.
For this afternoon, we toured various parts of the university campus.
See these green bags that are under the. There's an earthquake or any sort of seismic activity, the building can move.
Then we took a bus to get to the headquarters of Freemet, a startup company that manufactures various cleaning products like detergents and soaps made from sustainable sources.
And they use diapers. And I hate it.
Tonight, us juniors are visiting the 4-story shopping mall next to the Cenco Costanera, the tallest skyscraper of Latin America. There's even a drone store. Apparently the Peruvian food here is really good. We even ran into Dr. Russell, who joined us at the table. Today is the last day of the STEM boot camp, so there will be a closing ceremony.
That's terrible.
First, there is a guest presentation from a famous musician. Then, the diplomas were handed out to each teacher student, and even us visiting students from Hopkins were asked to get on stage. After the ceremony, we enjoyed a lovely picnic with the Católica students who would be leading the STEM Academy Camp for Youth next week. For dinner tonight, we're going to a culinary school to learn how to make traditional Chilean food. The menu features empanadas, sopapillas, and pedre. The chef instructors showed how to properly wrap an empanada.
As I told you, we left a bit of dough.
That's funny.
Drink your water. Yes.
Then we tried it ourselves.
We have them.
Good. Okay. Flowers in the sun.
I have one without olives.
And at the end of the cooking session, of course we enjoyed everything we created. Starting off the morning with some student presentations about the locations we're visiting on our day trip to Valparaíso, a port city 2 hours by car from where we are currently in Santiago. The first stop is Congress, where a tour guide taught us all about the governmental system of Chile. We took the funicular, a kind of diagonal tram, to get to a beautiful vista point. Then we embarked on a walking tour of the city, where our tour guide Claudio led the way.
Al mirarte de Playa Ancha, lindo puerto, allí se ven las naves al salir ya.
The lunch spot was delicious, and before long, we found ourselves on a boat tour to end the day. Today will be another all-day trip, so we will have some student presentations and a lecture from Dr. Russell to prepare ourselves. The first stop is the Temple Baha'i, a beautiful structure for the faith that believes in the unity of all religions.
Okay, but why does it kind of look like an Apple store? That's where we live. Over there.
Next, we toured a family winery called Vino Love.
Husband, my brother-in-law, is the winemaker of this winery.
Besides seeing the vineyard and encountering some adorable furry friends, everyone was legally allowed to indulge in some quality wine tasting. The tour ended with a lunch on the rooftop, featuring meat fresh off the grill, dessert with coffee, and wine, of course. After getting back, we did a laundromat trip, and I also joined a few others in doing an outdoor run along the river. But eventually, I was exhausted, and the sunset was too beautiful to ignore. The day started off with visiting the house of Pablo Neruda in Isla Negra, a museum for a famous poet where photos and videos were unfortunately not allowed. These cheese empanadas were absolutely scrumptious, but so was the rest of the lunch that we enjoyed all together. Highly recommend the fresh watermelon juice. There cannot be a summer vacation without a beach day. Monday begins the STEM Academy week-long summer program for high school students to learn pre-engineering skills, and we Hopkins engineers are brought in as teaching assistants. My assigned class is called Introduction to Creative Engineering, and the first day involved building spaghetti marshmallow towers. This afternoon, we are visiting the Phage Lab, located in the Innovation Center building on campus. It's a startup working with bacteriophages that was founded here at the university. I picked a photo-worthy Japanese restaurant for our dinner, and then about half of us went on the bike tour.
We're going biking. Yay, can't wait. Right? Hopefully this can see you. The view is amazing. Check that out.
Every so often, we would stop and our tour guide would explain more about what we were seeing in the city.
They're so cute.
To the forest.
Yay, we got ice cream after our bike.
Sweet potatoes, amazing.
And I got melon.
And then one of the first buildings in this hill.
Today, the kids were working on their cardboard chair design thinking challenge. When we returned to the hotel, there was a brief work session for the upcoming presentation assignment, but soon after, we were on our way to the Hill of San Cristobal. To get to the monument, we rode the gondolas, which provided us with a breathtaking view of Santiago. For just $2, you can get a mote con huesillo, a traditional Chilean drink consisting of dried peaches, cooked wheat, all drowned in a sweet syrup.
Gotta get it, the tourist attraction.
I like to think of it as the Latin variation of my favorite boba tea.
Yeah?
For dinner, we stopped at Liguria, a restaurant famous for its architecture as a former embassy for the French. There are also several beautifully painted murals on display throughout the restaurant's floors and patio.
Andaris Violeta Parra.
Today is the classic egg drop design challenge, but with no limit on creativity for allowed materials. Most teams passed, suffering no damage to their passenger egg. We're also preparing the materials for the activity we'll be leading tomorrow. Here's a sneak peek of the DIY tensegrity table. I received an adorable kiwi drawing and letter from a student at the end of class, and then grabbed a poke bowl from the campus cafe for lunch. Today, we are visiting Diga La Pintana, a nonprofit that works on various composting and environmental projects. We completed a little volunteering too, preparing ice plants for potting. Ice plants are these claw-shaped succulents that require little water and help stabilize erosion. But in California, they're considered very invasive, so it was interesting to change my mindset about the species where we now work to protect them.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Después que está listo allá, viene el compost acá a reposar y estar 3 meses y medio.
Sí, es que unos bichos chiquitos que son. Ever, yo aquí mismo le voy a mostrar.
Se pintan con pintura acrílica y se pone un horno eléctrico.
This is the fountain and stairway featuring the Roman god Neptune, an entrance to the hiking trail around the hill of Santa Lucia. There was some free time tonight, so my friends and I decided to take the metro here ourselves to check it out. Montana Gelato and its towering frozen desserts caught my eye, but since I couldn't decide between the flavor offerings, I ended up getting the standard tart frozen yogurt with all the possible fruit toppings. Arrived a little early today, so I took a few minutes to admire the students' creations. Also finished manufacturing the rest of the DIY tensegrity table kits with a laser cutter. So it was time for a big moment. With my basic spoken instructions, the kids began the challenge of assembly. It seemed we underestimated their sharp abilities, as all groups finished in just an hour, and so we decided to hold a strength and balancing competition. Some teams managed to bear the full weight of all the screws, but we also watched the collapse of several. After class, I grabbed a chicken and rice bowl for lunch. And then it was time for our session with Sirve, a civil engineering company that was started by professors here at Católica, where they focus on designing earthquake mitigation technologies, given Chile's geographic proximity to a particularly damaging fault line. We were able to tour the warehouse where they ran a verification test. When we returned to the hotel, there was no time to rest, as our US versus Chile cultural presentations were underway.
Yeah, thank you all. So our presentation is about Bridging the Gap. We're going to be talking about Indigenous people's rights.
Alright everyone, I'll be talking about some differences and challenges between the US and Chile, specifically with ridership, safety, environment, and handling fare evasion. So, as can be supported by these graphs, the ridership in Chile is only continuing to grow. Specifically, the population of Santiago is increasing rapidly, to the point that there's actually a recent statistic of 6 passengers per square meter.
We enjoyed dinner nearby at an Italian restaurant.
This looks so good. so much stuff to show.
The finale of the STEM bootcamp featured an expo, where students showed off their learnings and creations from the week to their families. There was also a diploma ceremony, and I even received a chocolate from one of my students.
Last day.
Did you take my gun? That's what you were gonna say. That was.
Our Friday night activity is a swing dance lesson. After working up a sweat, we enjoyed a well-deserved dinner at Margot. It was also Shreya's birthday. In the morning, we visited La Vega Central, Santiago's largest farmers market with over 1,000 stalls.
Authorities of La Vega with the City Hall, they should get to an agreement in order to, at least to have this area clean, you know?
Come on.
Then we had some free time to explore the shops around our area, and I also bought like the biggest sandwich ever. With only a few hours left before our flight back to the US, we sped through presenting to each other about what we did and learned from assisting in the various STEM camps this past week.
On the bottom, there's public transportation, walking, like various different like muscle groups as it came up. They were
right. I went first, and it was miserable. Who went second? Zane went second, and then I went the farthest, and we just kept that one because we were.
Last 30 minutes, Cornerstone race to get souvenir snacks for my friends. Overall, this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I'll remember forever. From the sights and sounds to the unique characteristics of a country across the hemisphere, I know the 2 weeks we spent immersed in the Chilean atmosphere will help us become more empathetic engineers with a cultural understanding to support the technologies and businesses we'll develop in the future. Thank you to Dr. Russell, Dr. Miranda, as well as the CIE staff and everyone else who was involved with the planning and logistics to make the whole adventure a success.